Hello and welcome back to my studio. Now, are you thinking of taking more risks with your painting? Or does painting really scare you? Well, today I'm going to show you a demonstration where taking some risks deliver big rewards. Stick around and see what happens. Okay, now in this painting I'm taking a reference that is nice, but it's not very exciting. Instead, I'm going to try and experiment with some color and brushwork and paint and bring something different to the final result. It's also a way of showing you that taking a risk with your painting is nothing to worry about. The final result may be good, it may be fantastic, or it might be average. It might surprise you, it might show you a new direction. It may be the launch of your painting career. You never quite know until you try. So this is all about using the painting subject as a starting point, as a guide, and then bringing your own interpretation to the colors and creating something that I think turned out a little more interesting than the original reference. Let's dive in and enjoy the painting. Here's that reference. It has nice shapes, but we need to do something more with this. So I've got my oil colors and a few extras here like violet, cobalt blue and cadmium orange. I'm going to get into the composition fairly quickly, just with a round brush, bit of ultramarine and burnt sienna, and sketch a general layout. Just following the edges of the reference to the edges of the painting surface and figuring out where the darks are going to be, following pretty much a standard process. Mapping out the shadows. I like to have these drawings very loose, just let it flow, keep the brush on the panel as far as possible. Diving in with ultramarine and burnt sienna for the darkest darks. You can see in the reference there are a number of large shapes, including the road, probably about 5 main shapes to focus on. But I'm adding a foreground shadow for some added drama and compositional help. Using a number 10 brush, scrubbing in the dark mass shapes. I need to bring some more warmth and color into the road in the sunlit part, so adding a bit of yellow and orange to the white gives it a nice warmth. Now this is the launching pad, as it were, to the whole idea of exploring color. Bringing orange into the road color is something different from our usual approach, and orange leads to other things. Maybe the complementary colors of orange, which are blue. Now, the mountain showing in the background's got to be pushed right back. But I'm throwing in a bit of alizarin and violet as well. And let's see where that takes us. Already getting sort of these violet-y pink colors, and that's quite pleasing. And maybe we need more yellow to work off that. There's a lot of greens in the scene, but you don't have to create green. You can go down the road of yellow and orange like I'm going to do here, and really try and push the colors so that nice dollop of yellow paint against that pinkish violet, and already there's something exciting going on. Now using the cobalt violet with a bit of white, a little bit of alizarin, just getting a more unusual shade to the reds and violets. Just thinking shapes of color. I glance quickly at the reference, mix a color and put it down. Working the left-hand side to try and balance out the painting. There's a beautiful lightful tree that looks sort of almost like an olive tree catching the light. But it's a good reason to bring in a soft green and more violet shades as well. One of the challenges with this painting is to create a sense of distance. So strong, vibrant colors in the foreground, and then the cooler colors in the distance. But I've got to break through and show those gaps so the eye can follow the painting into the background and get a sense of something back there that's interesting to look at. Some nice highlights over here, just a bit lighter. Put it in thick impasto. If you know where you're going to put your light colors, you may as well go straight in with some thick paint. That's more like it. Really get those highlights on in a juicy impasto layer. Now I look at the hedge on the left and I can see yellow and something leaning towards orange. Then add a bit more orange to the mix and put that in. And that's how you push colors. You don't necessarily come up with something so far outlandish that it turns the painting into something else. This is still a representational scene of a road leading through trees, and that's what we're going to end up with in the end, but in an exciting layout of vibrant color. I need to get a shadow structure in on the right here before moving into the bright yellow hedge in the foreground. So everything plays off something else, light against dark and warm against cool. This is also called alla prima painting, or painting in the direct method, as opposed to using glazing, which would be more of an indirect way of painting. A lot of this is intuitive, and not every brushstroke is correct. You'll often see that I'm going to paint over something that didn't work out. So you're making decisions all the time. I find this direct approach, or the alla prima approach, far more engaging and exciting. It's not as lengthy or calculated perhaps as an old master approach. Even though I'm painting in the studio, I like to approach the painting as if I'm painting outdoors. or at least as far as possible. And that requires you to observe your subject very closely, make a decision, and proceed with that. Mix the color, put it down, move on to the next shape. Here I'm refining the shadows. I need more shadows in that middle ground area. But I want the colors to not just be darks. In other words, I want to follow the principles of cool bluish shadows. But I want the blues to be more unusual. So some cobalt coming into that to get that sweet blue, which I think is working nicely against the light and warm road, the sunlight portions. And it's funny, as I'm looking at this as the painting progresses, a lot of the decisions that I'm making now from color were influenced by those violets and pink colors at the top of the painting. The yellows, the almost turquoise greens on the left, they all harmonize. This sort of harmony happens when you use a relatively small palette of color and everything is kind of mixed from the common pool. That creates an automatic harmony. I'm really pushing the highlights now on this focal area. And there's nothing nicer than putting down a juicy brush stroke like that. This is the really enjoyable way of painting. Put down a clean color note. If it's not clean, go over it. Fix it straight away. Just getting that sidewalk area defined a little more. Refining the painting is what I'm doing, making shapes smaller, adding a shadow, adding perhaps a different color like I'm doing here, just cutting in to get this foreground looking a little more, I say, nicely composed, but it's kind of a gut feeling. The shadows just need to be developed some more. Right, going over the strong dark and getting the shadow looking like it's getting more reflected light into it, so it's not going to be as dark as I had it. Balancing out those violets into the middle ground. I really like that. And we'll have to take some of that across the road as well, I think. So I suppose that is one of the ways that I do try to create harmony in the painting. It's not just color, but to get the color represented throughout the painting. Even if it is a small mark on one side, that balances out a larger area of color on the other. Always see how you can move your colors around the entire painting surface. Cutting in with some mountain colors at the back, coming through the trees. At the same time, carving out interesting shapes in the tree, trying to follow the organic shapes of the tree, the round forms. Re-establishing this dark edge, which is an important dark edge to the the composition. And now getting a smaller brush. I've been using a number 8, but now this is a number 4 just to refine the shadows a little, especially the edges of the shadows, soften them up, break in and cut in with a few touches of light. Doesn't that light things up nicely? I want to see through in the back there, so I've got to create more light as well. Make this an interesting shape, just spread those highlights a little more. It's almost like carving with thick paint. And to be honest, it is a lot of fun. This is almost like play. Bit of information in the darks over here. So we got reds playing with greens, we got violets playing with those. There's oranges with the blues. All of these relationships, warm and cool color, temperature as well. A couple of figures to add scale and a little bit of interest and life. And the painting is nearly done. So painting like this, as I mentioned in the beginning, is not something you plan, but you let it take you along. You take a risk, throw in a color you would not perhaps even see there, but feel that the color would work. Once that color is in, it influences a decision for another color and so on. So the risk pays off. If it doesn't, scrape it away, try something else, or start a new painting. It doesn't matter. Take a risk, see where it goes. A few little dark accents. As the hedge on the left here is a little light, I will darken that up a bit. Get a few, just break some of that up there. There's always something extra. Let's darken this up, just deepen this shadow a bit. It was catching my eye and distracting me to the edge of the painting, and we don't want that. So there's just a stand back, have a look, just decide if you need to break up a shape maybe, or create a little bit more light like that. It's hard to know when to stop, but if you can't think of something else to put down, the painting is probably complete. I've just got a lot of paint left on my palette, so I'm trying to use some of it. So you decide if this risk paid off, or maybe it doesn't agree with you. But that's just it. You paint for yourself, and if you enjoyed it, then there you go. I must say, I didn't have expectations for this, but once I was into it, it's so much fun and liberating, I think, to just take things and let it flow. finding an edge over there, and we'll sign that off. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed this. It was certainly a lot of fun to do. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration. I must say I enjoyed painting it. I wasn't too excited about the original reference, as you probably could tell, but by the end of it, the colors had me interested and I'm happy with the end result. So, kind of something out of nothing. Try this approach with your own subjects. You could find something outside that you're so familiar with you don't even notice it anymore. But just tweak things a little, add some excitement, and give yourself the permission to do something different. And take what comes as a great learning experience. Okay, just a last word. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And if you can hit the notification bell, you'll be notified of the next video. And the free course up here as well. I do recommend that as well. Okay, that's enough from me, and we'll see you in the next video soon. Cheers for now.